What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Off Nights with Allen Stiles as we break down all things Kings as they are almost done with the season, man. Allen Stiles of Stiles and Watkins and Chris Watkins. I wanted to introduce myself before I just brought up Chris, but Chris Watkins said something that really didn't feel real to me. He said that the last regular season game is next Sunday. And it all feels long and short all at the same time, the season does. And the Kings still have an opportunity. We're going to get into some pocket watching right now. Just to tell you right off the top, the Pelicans are losing to the Magic. They are losing 107-92. Obviously, they've been missing Brandon Ingram. I saw Zion doing the best that he can. Let's see what Zion has right now. So CJ McCollum has 27 points. Zion has 15. And on the Magic side, Paolo Banchero, we know him well, 30 points for him. Franz Wagner with 19. So if they can hold on, that would, and his brother Mo Wagner, if they could hold on, that would be outstanding for the Kings, and it would allow the Kings to gain even more ground and get back into that 6 seed conversation. It's really confusing right now. And we know the bottom line is you have to win games, but it's really confusing right now if the Kings and Kings fans should be rooting for the Pelicans or the Mavericks. The reason I'm leaning more towards the Pelicans, even though you don't, and it's just a matter of who you think the Kings could catch. That tiebreaker, which is, it's confusing because the Mavs aren't done as far as the tiebreaker is concerned. They still have to figure out, I believe, who has a better division record because neither of them could win their division. So that's where it would go to since they finished 2-2. So that we're not going to know that until either the last game or second to last game, something like that. With the Pelicans, obviously, you know who owns a tiebreaker, as the Pelicans haven't even lost to the Kings before, no matter who they put out there. But the Pelicans kind of have a harder road ahead, which could make things easier for the Kings to catch them. As I just mentioned, they're losing to the Magic, and we can go over the rest of their schedule and things like that a little bit later in the show. As far as the Mavericks are concerned, yeah, you still have a chance of having the tiebreaker, but the way they've been playing has been pretty darn good. They lost to the Warriors last night, but besides that, they've been rolling. So it feels like, all right, if you want to take the 5 seed Mavericks, just take it. And then the Pelicans, if you continue to lose games and the Kings have another matchup with the Pelicans that could jump them, not based on the tiebreaker, but just based on where they are in the standings. Same with the Suns. They cannot control anything else with the Mavericks. So that's a tough one. And it's going to be a tough road ahead for the Kings to get this taken care of. Somebody on the Sac Chat, shout out to the Sac Chat, I love my life, says just finished watching Celtics beat OKC. Tough game for OKC. It is going to be rough on the Kings back-to-back. Yeah, so they have the Knicks tomorrow night, and then they have the Celtics on Friday. And the Celtics and OKC, I don't believe Shai Gilgeous played, and I don't know that Jalen Williams played either, and they still kind of played them tough for as long as they could. It's going to be really tough, and it seems like the Celtics are still rocking and rolling. Maybe the Kings get lucky, and maybe the Celtics, who basically have everything wrapped up, maybe they sit there and say, hey, we want to give our guys some rest. I know, what was it last week, Joe Mazzulla talked about leaving Porzingis out on the guards and switching everything because they might have to do that in the playoffs. So that's possible. That's possible. Anything is possible. And Porzingis has been a bit banged up, as he kind of is every season. So who knows? Maybe at least he doesn't play, right? I don't even remember. I don't even think he played the last time the Kings played the Celtics, and it didn't really matter, and they got ran off the floor. So it's going to be tough. I think that when you look at the Kings schedule, Knicks tomorrow without OG, and I know they have a couple other guys questionable as well. I believe Josh Hart is questionable. Let's see here. Yeah, Josh Hart is questionable, along with Mitchell Robinson, questionable as well. So We'll see if they play or not. Either way, we know that the Kings got to take care of business. And yes, I love my life saying that SGA didn't play. So yeah, I mean, and he must be banged up. I believe I saw the game was either must have been late last week, and I saw the game and where SGA just looked banged up. Didn't really know what exactly happened, but he just looks like it's been a long season. And as much as these teams, I know Jamal Murray has been playing for the Nuggets. These teams want the first seed, but number one priority is getting into the playoffs healthy. Unfortunately, that's not the case for the Kings, or it's not going to be the case for the Kings, but it wasn't a problem last night as they take care of business against the Los Angeles Clippers in a game where, honestly, man, it just looked like the Clippers were a bit disinterested. They didn't want to be there. Paul George, there's a lot of drama going on. When I was at the game yesterday, I was talking to different media members, and they said it wouldn't be surprising if either Ty Lue or Paul George aren't back next season. Maybe both of them, maybe one of them. And with the new arena opening up, you got to figure that was a bit of a nightmare, or it looks like a nightmare for Ballmer, unless they make some noise this season, which a couple months ago, I know if you listen to the show, we were all over the Clippers, and they were balling and they were doing their thing. Does not seem to be the case anymore. James Harden is just always disinterested. Kawhi is now missing time. And when we played the Ty Lue sound, or when I heard the Ty Lue sound, he did not sound very happy about it. He did not sound very happy about it at all. This is from TD Eckler. Hey, Styles, it's Ashley. I always call in to 1140. Told y'all we are right where we want to be. Light that beam. Kings beat the Clips. Yeah, and the thing is, we want to enjoy it. We did enjoy it today on the show, but you got to keep going. You have to keep going because everybody is trying to get the best position they can right now, and it's just all hands on deck. And as we say, all hands on deck, I got to give a shout out to Davion Mitchell, man. I mean, if you've played sports, you know how it is when you're not getting as much time as you think you're getting. And, you play sports when you were a kid and you got your parents yelling at the coaches, or hopefully they weren't doing that. And Davion Mitchell, 25 minutes last night, 5 for 10 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, 14 points. He was a plus 16. I mean, just ridiculous stuff. And to hear the confidence that he has in his shot. And I've talked about it on off night before. My timing lines up with when Davion and Keon are just getting started doing their shoot around for home games. And Davion is out there every single day getting his work in. And to see him start to flourish and get an opportunity, it's just really a testament to the hard work that he puts in. And I know he has that saying that he always says, trust your work. And hey, like I said, I'm off nights. I'm not trying to take his nickname, but off night is definitely doing his thing right now. And he had an on night last night. And I want to see Davion, to be honest with you. I know Keon is going to check Jalen Brunson. And I know that famous meme or viral play that happened last time they played when Keon looked away for 2 seconds, and Jalen Brunson acted like a base stealer and just took off. That was pretty brutal. Okay, so I know Keon will want to get his get back, but I do think that we will see, well, number one, we're going to see blitzes. And James Harden was literally, in his James Harden way, applauding the Kings for how they blitzed last night. Because the Kings had blitzed the Clippers before in one of the games where it wasn't really close. It got kind of close towards the end of the game, and it looked terrible. And I'm pretty sure I said out loud, I don't want to see that anymore. But they did it perfectly last night. James Harden just couldn't get going at all. He had 6 points. James Harden had 6 points. He played 31 minutes. He was 1 for 7 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3-point land, and he got most of his points, or half of his points, at the free throw line. So good on the Kings for taking care of business in that way. I mean, if Russell Westbrook, no disrespect to Russell Westbrook, if Russell Westbrook is the highest scorer on a Clippers team, and Paul George and James Harden did play, and dare I say even Norman Powell, you probably did a good job. And look, Russell had 20 points, but you're going to take that all day, every day. So good on the Kings for taking care of business. They don't really have time to celebrate too much. They are now 44-31, and they're in the hunt. And with the guys that could be missing tomorrow night against the Knicks, even if they're not missing, you just look at their schedule and there's no way they can lose tomorrow. They just can't. If you look at what they have left, because not only do they have that, right? Not only do they have that, they also have a back-to-back with the Pelicans and the Suns. And that's going to be very tough as well. I'm going back to pocket watching because I see people on the chat from Amid Rock as well as the Magic are up by 10. They're up by 10 on the Pelicans with 4 minutes left. Hopefully they can hang on. The Suns just started, but if the Suns lose to the Cavs, then yeah, the Kings would gain a game. And it is fun to talk about this stuff, but ultimately you have to win. It does give you the opportunity to feel good and know that you control your own destiny. But can I be honest with you guys here? On off nights, it's Sactown Sports, a little after dark as well. Can I be honest with you? Sometimes I like the Kings when their backs are against the wall, and that didn't really happen against the Mavs, even though they played their butts off. And Mike Brown, he even brought that up last night when he said, we fought, man. We just didn't have the firepower. And I felt the same way. Maybe you'd like to see more from De'Aaron Fox towards the end of that, but you lose Malik Monk. It's really hard to react on the fly. And I know they blew a lead, but they got the lead by a bunch of guys that they haven't really leaned on all season. I mean, Kessler Edwards played really well. I feel bad every time Kessler Edwards plays well. The Kings don't seem to win. So, you put that aside and you put that in a separate bucket. I personally feel like the Kings are best suited for when their backs are against the wall. I would rather have, and I guess a different way of saying this is I would rather have the Kings be in a situation where they have to win. I guess you have the Blazers after the Suns, but you have to beat the Suns and beat the Blazers, and you're the 6th seed, but you're starting from the 7. I would rather that than them already be in the 6 and they gotta beat the Suns and beat the Blazers to stay in the 6. That's how much it worries me at times with the Kings and their ability to get it done when they don't have their backs against the wall. From CJ Langs, we can only talk about the players that are playing, but we need to take on the rest of the season as a pre-playoffs. Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, it is, right? If you don't want to be in the play-in, you have to rock and roll. And I saw something yesterday. It gets a little bit confusing with the tiebreakers. The bottom line is, number one, you need the Pelicans, and you need the Pelicans, the Suns, the Mavs. You need them to lose as much as possible. They're not going to lose every single game, but, with 7 games left, you lose more than 2, you're probably in the play-in. That's how I see it. And if you lose to the Pelicans and the Pelicans are still in the 6th seed, you're in the play-in. And if you lose to the Suns, you're probably in the play-in, right? Or worse, you lose to the Suns, you might be looking at the 8 instead of the 7. So it's all right in front of you. I think if the Kings can just only lose 2 and finally beat the Pelicans and beat the Suns and avenge that terrible loss that they had, which is a loss that we actually don't talk about enough, I don't think. I mean, no point in crying over spilled milk, but that loss where the Kings really collapsed, really those 2 losses, because right before that there was the Bucks game, and that was the Bucks with Adrian Griffin. I know we got to move forward, but those are the things. I mean, you look at so many games, and those don't sting probably as much as the Wizards and the Hornets and the Pistons and things like that. But now you have to take care of business. There's just no room. And I know Harrison Barnes talked about the only way is through, and I really did like that quote because that is what it is. I think that's also Harrison saying we have no clue if we can just go on a run. And we're just prepared for however this thing turns out. We're just prepared to go in the play-in. If we have to go in the play-in, do we want to go in the play-in? No, but we're going to give our best out there every single night, and hopefully we're able to get it done. And that's exactly what they did last night. I mean, a Clippers team who they just looked like they didn't want to be there, and I feel like maybe they went on a mini half run at one point where one of the role players, maybe it was Norman Powell or Terrence Mann, they hit a three or something like, well, Terrence Mann didn't even hit a three, but it must have been Norman Powell. He hit a three, and we were thinking, okay, what's going on here? Could this get a little bit squirrely? And the Kings just said, we're just not going to let it happen. And I think they have to set the tone. I would tell you this, you talk about Vegas and things like that tomorrow. I don't know what the under is. I would take the under because De'Aaron Fox, he's been a heck of a playmaker, but his numbers shooting the basketball and scoring the basketball have been a little bit lower, right? But he's doing other things. And like we mentioned, I don't care if De'Aaron doesn't have to be at 30 if he's at 20. And, there's a crazy stat with the Kings and how much better their record is when De'Aaron records 7 or more assists, which he did last night. So if you focus on 7, I mean, you're going to need 20 from De'Aaron, right? The numbers tell you you're missing 15 points with Malik Monk. You're missing obviously what Kevin Huerter was giving you. So you cannot afford to have De'Aaron drop under 20 unless it's just going to be the Keegan Murray show. And that's kind of what it was in a way last night. Keegan Murray is a guy who everybody gets so excited at the young talent that a lot of times you think he scored more than he did. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all, but Keegan Murray having 19 points, it just felt like he had more, right? Maybe because he took a lot of shots and he had that crazy dunk. He had a couple dunks actually, but the crazy dunk with our guy Kyle Draper on an outstanding call. I think I played that on the show 6 times today. But Keegan, 18 shots, right? That's the first time in his career he's taken 18 shots in back-to-back games. And keep shooting, young fella. The Kings, they need it. They need it. They need it. They need it. 8 for 18. You get to 19 points. We can live with that, right? We can live with that. Now, we can live with that because Trey Lyles did have 15 and Davion Mitchell did have 14. We need Keegan to be in that closer to 15 to closer to 20 range. And then you get Sabonis over 15, De'Aaron hopefully over 25, but De'Aaron over 20. And if you can get Keegan to closer to 20 himself, that's around 60 right there. So where are you going to get to that 110? Because I think that Mike Brown is completely leaning into the fact that we are missing scoring, but on top of missing scoring, at least our defense has been better. And when your defense is better, he said it last night, you don't have to score 120 points every single night. And you're not going to. He actually said that scoring 125 in the playoffs, that's fool's gold. It doesn't matter what the team is. He said that there are exceptions to the rule, but a lot of times those teams, if not defense first, they're definitely respectable defensively, and then they have some guys. So if you're looking at around 60 right there with Sabonis, Keegan, and De'Aaron, give or take, where's that other 50-ish going to come from? I mean, Harrison Barnes, we're not going to talk bad about the sportsmanship of the year nominee, but 6 points last night, you get away with it because you have Davion Mitchell, and it is going to get scary, but Davion Mitchell having 14, he's been on a heater. He's shooting, I believe, 47% from 3 I think since the new year, and it was something like 60% since March. So maybe that is who Davion is now. But if you do lose that, I don't know if I feel comfortable banking on that every single night. I love to, and hopefully we can, but there's going to be a night where you're not getting 14 points from Davion. There's going to be a night where you're getting under 10 points from Davion. And there's going to be a night where you get the same thing from Trey Lyles, hopefully he keeps rocking and rolling. 3 for 8 from 3, 6 for 11 from the field. He's got to shoot more too. He's got no choice. And if we remember, before that injury, Trey Lyles had been struggling. And maybe it was an opportunity for him to get his mind right, and get back on the right track as far as his shooting, because you're going to need all of that. So right there, you have to find 50 other points essentially. And De'Aaron's going to have nights where he goes off, but we have not seen a 30-point night in a fairly decent amount of time from De'Aaron because he's setting other people up. So it's got to come from other guys. I'm looking at you, Sasha Vezenkov. I'm looking at you, Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis only 3 points last night. So as long as you get there, it doesn't matter how you get there, which is actually interesting because that's essentially how That's essentially how Mike Brown has played this whole season, right? It's never been about when he wanted, when people wanted to bench Harrison Barnes and people wanted to bench Kevin Herter. And I'm not saying I'm not one of those people. I'm just saying us in general. His feeling was, and this isn't verbatim, but it was basically, I'm not going to sit these guys or I'm not going to bench these guys, but if they're not performing, then they can sit. You know what I mean? And you actually that first half last night, Harrison didn't play that much. So, and they did the same thing with Kevin Herter. So I believe it's a quieter way to get the point across. How much do people care about starters? I know fans do. I know the media does. I don't think Mike Brown really does. So that is where he lands on this. And now with no Malik Monk and with no Kevin Herter, what do you know? You're essentially in the same position as to where you just need production. It doesn't really matter what the name is, right? It's I need production from my 4. I need production from my 2. It doesn't matter whose name is on the back of the jersey. I just need production. And he feels like I can get the minutes to those guys that are giving me production, even if they don't start. That's how it's always been. That's how it's always been. Again, we're staying positive here, but I mean, Chris Duarte, can you give the Kings something when they need it? They didn't need it last night, right? They didn't need it last night. He crept up to 8 points and 8 minutes. He had 2 points. And look, we'll discuss the Chris Duarte thing once we get to the offseason, but it would be nice to get something from him. And we will get something from him on certain days. Alex Len, I mean, he said last night in the postgame, he only cares about plus or minus. And I know certain people have feelings about plus or minus, but he's a player. So whatever he cares about, I'm good with. And to be a plus 18, he was the highest plus or minus in the whole game. To be plus 18 and he had 4 points, but more importantly, he had 3 blocks, 7 rebounds. I mean, very similarly to how we talked about the different minutes for some of the other guys and how it feels like they may have played more. I was flabbergasted when I saw Alex Len only played 12 minutes. It felt like he was out there for at least 20. That's what it felt like, and that's the impact that he had. We're going to need more of that. We are going to need more of that from him if the Kings want to make a move and continue to win these basketball games. So that's really a breakdown of last night's game and, exciting stuff for the Kings to get it done. And the cool thing is at the same time, you just got to flush it and continue to move forward. You can't really not dwell or celebrate it because they're going to be in New York and they're going to be in the Big Apple. And New York is battling with the Magic, who the Magic now are on their way to winning. I'll check again, but they're battling for that 4 seed. They're trying to get that home court advantage to start. And I'm going to refresh here for everybody. By the way, the Bucks are bad. They don't have Damian Lillard playing right now, but they're not good. They just lost, what was it, to the Wizards last night, and they just lost to the Grizzlies. The Bucks are in trouble. And Drew Holiday, and I know Chris Middleton isn't the same guy with the injuries and things like that, but Drew Holiday, you move on from him. And Dame had been a little bit banged up in Portland before he came over. And I'm looking here, and again, just at the box score, yeah, Chris Middleton out again. And they are literally limping into the playoffs. You got Bobby Portis Jr., who I don't know if he started or not, but he played 28 minutes, 19 points. Giannis had 21, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists. And just looking at that line, I know there's Jaren Jackson, and he's been a depoy in this league. But looking at that line, especially after what Giannis did last night in a loss to the Wizards, that tells me that Giannis is tired. Giannis is tired, and that's not good timing. You got Pat Connaughton playing 35 minutes, putting up 6 points. Malik Beasley, 10 points. Brook Lopez, 38 minutes, 25 points, 10 rebounds. I know Chris loves Brook Lopez. Chris Watkins does. But that is not what is going to get it done. You got Jay Crowder, who one of the most confusing players that's left in the league. I mean, I think he's really good, and I think he's a great piece, and I feel like I like him on the Kings, but it just never seems like he's really doing too much. So sorry for that little sidebar real quick. It is 16-17 with the Cavs losing to the Suns right now. Chris has never been high on the Suns. They've always worried me just because of what they're supposed to be. You lose some worry with the Clippers, and now you have the Suns. Both of those teams are essentially in the same category to me. So we essentially have a final. There's 1 second left. The Magic, they did beat the Pelicans. So that's a great day for the Kings. Of course, they have to face off against the Pelicans a little bit later in the season. I guess next week at this point, not later in the season. And number one, they have to have it tomorrow night against the Knicks. Now, the reason I keep saying that is because if the Celtics roll everybody out there and you're on the second half of a back-to-back, I'm kind of baking, and don't tell anybody, but I'm kind of baking the Celtics game in as a loss. And I'd love to be wrong, but it just feels safer. It just feels safer that way with what the Celtics have been this season, a complete buzzsaw. It's not any disrespect to the Kings, and I would gladly be wrong, but to me, it would just be tough for the Kings to go back to back, grindhouse game against the Knicks, and then come back and do battle with the Celtics. And I see CJ Langs, they already clinched. I don't think they'll play very hard against us. Yeah, and that's kind of where Chris has been too. But I mean, they're still winning basketball games. I mean, there's no reason for an OKC team, and I know OKC was missing Shea and missing some of their guys, but there's no reason for Boston to go as hard as they did. What would have saved us, and not that we have any control, it really would have saved us if the Celtics were coming off a back-to-back. If the Celtics were coming off a back-to-back, that would have been a little different, but they're not, and both games are at home. And the Celtics, yeah, you talk about taking it easy on teams. The Celtics, they won 135-100. Now, again, no Shea Gilgeous, no Jalen Williams. Excuse me. Yeah, the number 8 Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams did play. And those are two really big pieces, but they just waxed the Thunder by 35 points. Porzingis had 27, and now I'm looking at the minutes that they played, which they probably, even worse, they probably didn't even have to play. Well, it looks like it was kind of close until the fourth. They outscored the Thunder 42-17. 42-17, they outscored the Thunder in the fourth quarter. Porzingis had 27 and 12. Jaylen Brown had 23. Drew Holiday had 12. Tatum had 24. Peyton Pritchard had 11. Al Horford had 16. Sam Hauser had 10. So it's just going to be tough. And that is why, to me, maybe you get lucky. Maybe you get lucky, but I'm just kind of locking it in. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I see you, Curtis, that everybody keeps saying that the Celtics clinched. I'm just saying you can't go out there and half play. They're still gonna play hard. They're still trying to prepare for the NBA playoffs. So I think the hope, as far as I'm concerned, isn't with the Celtics, quote unquote, not playing as hard. The hope is that they sit some people. The hope is that you're about 2 weeks out from the playoffs. The hope is that you get a random rest day. And that's why I don't know that they'll get a random rest day, because of the fact that they're home as well, and it's not going to be a back-to-back. Let's see. Please see what I wrote above about Celtics coach saying every regular game is being played as a playoff game, 4 or 7. Yeah, I get it. I get it, And look, to be fair, every coach is going to say that. Every coach is going to say that. We'll see. And the reason the Kings might get healthy is because if you are going to sit some people, it would be the week before the playoffs. I don't know that you're going to sit too many guys right before the playoffs, maybe early on in that week. And remember, the Celtics have to wait even longer because they have to figure out what happens with the play-in. So maybe you'll get lucky. I'm expecting the Celtics to come out punching, and honestly, to see this as an opportunity to play a playoff level team. They probably don't feel like they scratched that itch today because the Thunder didn't play Shea, or they didn't play Jalen Williams. So they might not even feel like that itch has been scratched. But number one being number one, you have to beat the Knicks. Because if you're telling me you're going to lose to the Knicks and then happen to beat the Celtics, honestly, that actually might make a little bit of sense this season with this Kings team. But it could just get sticky. It could just get real sticky, because now you're talking about, again, if you're just joining the show, thank you for joining. Now you're talking about having to win and having to beat the Celtics, because you only got about two more losses. You only got about two more losses as far as I am concerned. This isn't any calculated math. The way I see it is just the way the Mavericks are playing, the way the Pelicans are playing, and the Suns. Whoever loses the least will get in, but that 2-loss spot is the safest you're going to be. And on top of that, the Pelicans and the Suns, you both have back-to-backs before the season's over, and I think it is actually a back-to-back. So that one is going to be a doozy, but can't worry about that quite yet. I also wanted to get into who needs to step up the most, and honestly, I think it's Keegan Murray. And it gets really confusing when you talk about a team and the growth, right? And a player and the growth. And in the NBA, you have a long-ish leash, but at the same time, you don't. It's pretty early on where teams want to know what you got with a guy. And Keegan Murray specifically, I think that this is a very important stretch, very important 7-game stretch, and we can count last night's game as the 8-game stretch, and he played really well. I think this is an extremely important stretch for Keegan Murray. If Keegan Murray doesn't play well and the Kings get outed early or don't get into the playoffs, I think a lot of it has to do with Malik Monk. If Malik Monk doesn't end up staying in Sacramento, then you probably don't look to move Keegan. But if Malik does, and you don't know what you have with Keegan, now you might think, hey, our timeline is a little bit different now, and we think Keegan is going to get there, but I don't know if he's there yet, and he's got a lot of value. Let's see if we can go get a superstar to pair up with De'Aaron and Sabonis and Malik and really get this thing going. But if Keegan Murray balls out and keeps doing what he's doing and keeps having Kyle Draper going crazy for his dunks and playing aggressively and playing like he wants to be a dude and he's demanding respect and he's going into his 3rd season like, I am one of those guys. I can be that guy for you. You don't need to make a big 3. I'm part of that big 3 right now moving forward. Then that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. An extremely important stretch. I think it's the most important stretch for Keegan Murray, and it's the biggest stretch for the Kings and their view of Keegan Murray these next 7 games. You can include last game and say that he's moving in the right direction. You got to put up shots. You have to defend at a high level, because you still have to get a wing defender in the offseason, but Keegan has to be one of those guys. And then, dare I say, you're looking at top 10 in offensive and defensive rating next season. You got a De'Aaron Fox who's Swipe of the Fox. He's got a crazy steal streak going on. You have if you keep Davion Mitchell, you'd have him to guard the guards as well. Keon as well. That's all locked down. And then you have a Keegan Murray who can help with the wings. I think Keegan can eventually be good on wings. He'll get stronger. He'll get more confident, but you just need a defensive wing guy. That's all you need. A guy that, hey, if you make a corner 3, cool. But we also have Keegan to handle the offensive side of that from the wing position. So I think it's an extremely important stretch for Keegan Murray, and I'm excited because I know what Keegan Murray did last season, and I know it really hasn't been the season that we all would have hoped for as far as Keegan shooting the basketball. But the crazy part is that can all go away. That can all go away. If he balls out these last 7 games, and he already did in this game last night, if he does that, then it literally is the slate is washed and everybody is on top of the world going into next season, whenever it ends. Even if they lose in the first round, hey, you were missing a starter in Kevin Huerter, and you were missing the 6th man of the year, or the odds-on favorite to win 6th man of the year with Malik Monk. So it would be an easier pill to swallow. And I talked about this on Off Nights earlier this week. Malik Monk, you're trying to convince him to stay. You know there are going to be other teams that throw him a bag. You know that. So if you're telling Malik, hey, you got to stay, you can be a starter, things like that, look at what we have, Malik. Well, Malik says, why should I stay? Besides the fact that I love Sacramento, I love the golf out here. There is outstanding golf out here, by the way. And I love the way of life out here. But on the basketball court, why should I stay? Well, Malik, you know you got your boy De'Aaron. He balled out all season long, and he's becoming a better three-point shooter, a better distributor. He's going to get you the ball as much as you get other people the ball. You know what Sabonis does. He's about to break more streaks for double-doubles than Mike Brown can even keep count of. Last night, he said, I honestly can't keep up with all these records. But what else do we have? We have a young stud in Keegan Murray who literally could change the landscape of this team, and we're pairing that with you, and that 5th spot we'll figure out if it's Harrison Barnes, whatever the case is. That's what we're rolling into next season. Maybe you level up on the bench and you get a defender or somebody like that. So that is the pitch to Malik Monk, on top of just, hey, this is what we can give you, and this, you could be a starter, because we know that he wants to win. I wanted to bring up what Curtis had to say on the Sac chat. Off night shouldn't be going anywhere. So yeah, Chris and I broke this down today. The team exercised his option for this season and next season. So the only way he really goes anywhere, as far as I'm understanding, would be via trade. So if you are Davion Mitchell and you have a hot end to the season, and you're shooting the lights out and you're defending, tomorrow night you lock up Jalen Brunson and you put up another 10, 15, whatever it is, other teams start looking. Chris said, look, if Keegan is locked up for now, or remains locked up, the Kings only really have one young asset to move around, and that could be Davion. I think the issue with Davion right now is just fully loaded, right? With Keon becoming who he's become, it's just a little redundant. And Keon, there's less as far as the contract is concerned. So I don't know what's going to happen with Davion. But what I do know is that Davion works his butt off. And what I do know is that Davion is going to come to work every single day with his lunch pail, and he is going to do his best to put the team in a great position and put himself in a great position. And after that, just let the chips fall where they may. So yeah, Davion, I think the issue is just roster construction. I don't think it's that anybody wants to move on, but I think the issue is you can't sit there and have 3 guards the way you would have 3 guards. So it's tough, man. It's really tough. And let's see, anything else? Well, let's check back in with the pocket watching. I got bad news, and I don't mean to end the show with bad news, but the Suns are up by 14. The Suns are up by 14 on the Cavs. Let me see. It's been really weird with Donovan Mitchell. He's another guy. Keep an eye on Paul George this offseason and Donovan Mitchell. Word on the street is Donovan Mitchell is not happy. I know he initially wanted to go to the Knicks. Now that they have Jalen Brunson, that feels redundant to me. But keep an eye on Donovan Mitchell. And yeah, he's played 10 minutes, so he's playing. Darius Garland is playing. It looks like most of their guys are playing. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, everybody's playing. So hopefully they can figure it out and get the Suns, get the Suns out of here. So thanks for listening, everybody, to Off Nights with Allen Stiles. If you don't already listen to Stiles and Watkins, be sure to tune in every day, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and we will chat with you soon. The next off nights, let me check here. I mean, there's not many left just due to the scheduling. Let's see here. So the next off nights will be, let's see here. They play tomorrow. So let's see. The next off nights, they have 3 games before the next off nights. The next off nights will be Monday, getting you ready, breaking down everything that happened in the time in between and getting you ready for Kings at Thunder. And hopefully Shea is still resting at that point and Jalen Williams, but I have a feeling that week of April, teams are all going to start to ramp up. Thank you for checking me out, and we will talk to you soon. Until next time, be safe, be well, be wise. Peace.